Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first premiere episode of what we are calling Get Thee Behind Me, which is going to be our fun, I say fun, walkthrough of the Left Behind books in a nice timely topic, right, for us all to go through. But for a lot of us, it's been foundational to our background with kind of hateful conservative religion. And I think it's probably about time that we started talking about all the ways that that is screwy. So joining me is a wild menagerie of faces, both familiar and new to you, dear listeners of our podcast and or video series. We're going to have some introductions here in just a minute. Before we really get into that, though, I am going to give one warning for anybody who is unfamiliar with the series and stuff we do on our church network. We are not going to be holding back in terms of language. So if you are the sort of person,
or content,
yes, if you are the sort of person who is uncomfortable with, say, the George Carlin 7, as we might put it, this might not be the place for you, because we are going to say fuck a lot. And as the pastor, I should be the first one to say that, because holy God, we're going to be saying that a lot. So if you're not comfortable with salty language and or adult topics, this one is not going to be for you. But if you're okay with that sort of thing and are okay with Christians and Christian adjacent folks saying those sort of things to talk about Christian and Christian adjacent topics, join right in. We're going to have a whole hell of a lot of fun, literally or otherwise. So why don't we start by going around the quote unquote table and giving ourselves some introductions. I'll start, since I'm pretty much in every video we always do ever anyway. So I am Pastor Don. I'm the pastor of Unfinished Community, and the one guy who you can pretty much guarantee is going to be riding herd on any of this insanity. I'm based here in Kobe, Japan, with, as you can see behind me, our actual physical church that we have here. But the majority of our congregation takes place on Discord, where a lot of conversation and stuff is happening. And so that means that most of the rest of the people that are either in or affiliated with our church are elsewhere around the world. That's me. I have a background in religion. I'm a pastor, so obviously I have a background in religion and theology. That's what I'm kind of bringing to the table for this conversation. For those who are interested in knowing my specific bona fides, I have a master's in education from Temple, a master's in divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary, and I'm an ordained minister of Word and Sacrament in the Reformed Church in America. If that's not enough for you, too damn bad. So let's go around the table and introduce ourselves and talk about where we're gonna beat this text up with a rusty spike from. Who wants to go first?
well, I guess I'm veteran of multiple other series that we've done on here. So if you've seen much on our channel or heard much on our podcast, you may know the incredibly Michigan sound of my voice. I am Courtney Fraley. I'm basically here because Don has spent years bearing witness to my sarcasm and inability to know when I'm going too far. So I think that's basically my bona fides for being here. I'm here to be real and to be a little bit mean. I think
it's a good thing.
Is that about sum it up? Is that why I'm here, Don?
Yeah, no, I think that does well. Like, you are our mistress of what the fuck, I guess, probably the best way to put it.
I believe I as far as the because this might be some people's first show, as far as the Christian end of things, it pressed hard for exactly what I believe. I would have a hard time saying the specifics, but I have been a lifelong Christian, and I am interested in knowing a God that I worship. So, like, I feel if you're going to attribute worship to something, it's worth exploring. So I am an exploratory spiritual person who identifies as Christian. There.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Since Courtney went, Scott, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Scott. I'm Courtney's longtime husband. And I am kind of regretting getting roped into this by the two of you after having no experience with the Left Behind series and attempting to start to read it. Oh man, this is gonna be a long one, huh?
We all had to read this as kids, so now you get to share our pain.
My God.
Had to. I loved it. I thought it was so cool.
Yeah, me too. God, boy, did I have a lot to learn. All right. So, and now for our other window here.
Yeah, I'm Kay. I'm Don's cousin, one of the black sheep of the family because of getting away from religion and being trans. I'm a freelance journalist and writer for just professionally online person mostly. Um, and I'm a musician as well. I play bass and write lyrics in a like little rock band called Chasing the Sky. We're not like big or anything. We kind of operate regionally and are not doing anything at the moment. You can listen to our new album on Tidal if you feel like it. And yeah, this here is my partner Finn. We are legally married in the state of Indiana, the only state where it's allowed for a person to be married to a plush doll. My partner Finn is over
Someone
here
out
off
there
screen
believe
because they're
that.
sick.
Yeah, someone out there might actually, like any conservatives who watch this might actually believe.
Blame Mike Pence. It happened during the Pence administration.
The wokes are coming for your sanctity of marriage. No, I'm actually Finn. Sorry, did I cut you off, Don?
No, I was just going to ask the question: is do plushies use litter boxes, and if so, what are the conservatives going to say next?
Oh my god.
In schools too, specifically only in schools.
Only in schools.
And we all graduated years ago. Go to schools just for that. Sorry,
But yeah, no. This hand is my hand. This hand is your hand.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So this is going to be a really high class operation for those of you who aren't sure whether or not to continue.
We are
Okay.
classy folk.
I apologize. I'm
No.
Finn. I am currently off screen because I do not feel well and may or may not. I say I won't be participating a lot probably, but who the hell knows? I am Kay's partner of almost 3 years now.
Yeah, something like
Something
that.
like that. Anyway.
Longer if you ask our friends.
And I don't know, as I was telling everyone before we started recording, I have a bit of a unique like background with Christianity in the sense that I grew up with a dad that was religious and a mom that was very much not religious, that divorced when I was pretty young. So I kind of got a little bit of experience in both worlds. Definitely not to the extreme extent of Kay or Don. And yeah, I don't know. I was a student at Grand Valley and plan to go back and finish my degree at some point relatively soon, hopefully. I was double majoring in anthropology and psychology, and I have a very big interest in linguistics and so just language in general. And yeah,
All
you'd
right.
say I'm just professionally disabled at the point.
And our major credential is that we had once we got a diss track written by a sexual predator / rapper about us, and that's honestly, I think the only thing you need to know about us that says who we are, and it's probably our largest accomplishment.
All right. Well,
Well, no one's topping that, so let's get into the rest of the
yeah, let's get into it. So for our first episode, actually, we're not going to get into the book quite yet. We're going to save that for episode 2 because we need to establish kind of a bit of a baseline here so that we know what the hell we're talking about here. Now, if you watch this far, you know we're going to be talking about the Left Behind books. There have also been movies, and as I just found out while we were warming up to start recording, apparently there was a video game that's based entirely on murdering the unbelievers.
4 of them.
No idea.
4 of them.
4 of them.
4 of them. The series went on for a while, apparently.
And this is from the people who hate violent video games, mind you. Wow, that just blows.
Mhm.
I didn't even know that shit. That
Yeah,
blows my
you
mind.
just murder non-believers and then you pray and then you're forgiven.
It's specifically advertised that you get to use like modern military equipment too. It's like the emphasis is on the violence.
So in case you haven't figured this out, dear watcher and or listener, we're going to be dealing with a shitload of hypocrisy here. Just like epic, like shovelfuls of weapons grade hypocrisy. So let's get that out of the way first. But in order to get into that, we want to understand a little bit about the kind of history that brought it up. And I'm going to give it in somewhat broad strokes because we don't want to be here for 3 hours on the first episode. And now some of you may be familiar with the history behind this. Scott, I know you're a little bit more well-read on kind of some of the religious history pieces. But I'm guessing, Kay, at least, you're probably not super familiar with some of this stuff. So I'm going to start with the statement that will probably get every conservative in the room turning this off right away, thank God. And that is modern evangelicalism is a cult and isn't part of Christianity. And I want to be like super clear on that what we're dealing with when we talk about the Left Behind books is that we're talking about books that were written for a cult that did not come from Christianity, but wears Christianity like a Buffalo Bill skin suit. So like, I see Scott already losing it. Like I did tell you, we're not holding back. Like, and that's very much what happened. So in order to understand what this is, we're going to go back and talk about some of the crazy heresies that form the basis for it. So I want to ask first and foremost, do you guys know anything about dispensationalism?
No.
We learned a little bit.
We read the Wikipedia page a little bit, but
All
in
right.
preparation for this. But yeah, that's about it.
$100 word. I don't think I could spell it. No.
What dispensationalism is it's one of the earlier heresies in modern Christianity. It goes back a ways. It kind of started popping up in like extreme fringe groups in like the 14 and 1500s, but it never got any traction. It got on a little bit with religious extremists in England for a while, particularly the Puritans, and you can guess what happened to them. They came over and landed in America, but even within the Puritans, it was still kind of evangelical, kind of fringe weirdness. It wasn't even central to Puritan theology. And it's a belief that the earth operates in different phases or dispensations, and that different teachings from the Bible only apply to certain dispensations, and that there's going to be an actual rapture at the end of time that's going to cause everybody to disappear, and a whole new dispensation is going to happen, and that's when the teachings of Jesus apply. It's radical, weird, numerology-driven bullshit. It makes no sense. It's irrational. It's basically the root cause of pretty much every end times weirdness that has ever popped out of Christianity. Just about every major denomination and thread of Christianity has called it a heresy from the beginning. So it's not a new thing, but it's always been extreme fringe. So flash forward a ways until the 1800s or so, and dispensationalism has been popping around. It's got some real traction in America because we're based on the fucking Puritans. So our core was already super fringe. So dispensationalism is more common over here, but it's still weirdness. And then we get a guy by the name of Cyrus Scofield. Anybody ever heard of this guy?
It's not a real name. That's not real.
Cyrus.
Oh, you're not prepared for these books then.
Well, I don't remember. His middle name's like Ingersoll or Ingersfield or some weird shit like that. C.I.
Again, fake news. Fake news.
No, he was a real person. And the best example of why capitalism and religion should never fucking mix. So C.I. Scofield was basically just a dude. No real seminary training, no real background as a preacher. But he decided that, he was a dispensationalist, and he was trained in pretty big air quotes by another dispensationalist preacher. Again, I won't say pastor because the term didn't apply, in all of the weirdness of dispensational heresy. And he decided, you know what? We need a better translation of the Bible. Mind you, he had no training in biblical languages or any of that other shit. He just like, I need to write this better. And so he wrote his own, what came to be known as the Scofield Reference Bible. You guys ever heard of that one?
I think just chatting with you a little bit before this.
Yeah, it's actually one of the most famous Bible versions in America. Not because it's particularly good. It's terrible. From an objective academic standpoint, it's completely insane. But this is where we get ideas like, the real ratification of the idea of a literal devil, the concept of a specific hell, a rapture, a tribulation. All of these concepts come not from Christianity, but from the Scofield Reference Bible, which was made up almost entirely out of whole cloth. Like, he retranslates and reparses just about everything in weird, nonsensical ways and adds pages of notes and references to it, which is why it's called a reference Bible. On its own, this would be like some weird ass screed from some weird ass guy in the back ass corner of occultism that kind of branched off from Christianity years ago in a weird way. If it weren't for everybody's favorite guest star, capitalism. You see, what good old C.I. Scofield did is he convinced the Sears Corporation that there was money in selling this shit. Okay, do you guess what happened next? That fucker went everywhere.
They sold it.
He sold it and it went everywhere. But even still, dispensationalism, rapturism, and all this didn't super well. It became much more well known, but it didn't organize and it didn't catch on. And it was just this weird cult that kind of was around the outer fringes of Christianity, as cults tend to be. Flash forward to the 1950s and 60s. We're on the back end of the Southern strategy now, and the Republicans are trying to kind of get in with the racist whites and really kind of bring themselves together around a religious tentpole. And they decide they're going to need some of that old time religion to make this shit work. So what they do is they grab outlying Pentecostals, like some of the, like your snake charmer level, way on the outside, and a bunch of other radical kind of snake oil salesmen and other preachers that are on that kind of level. And they wrap them around a core of Scofieldism. And they start telling the world, this is Christianity. You have to be Christian. If we're Republicans, we're Christian, and this is what we mean by Christianity. They give a platform to Scofieldists in the public scene. Everything that becomes Republican Christianity from then on out is built around this core. From the moral majority on forward, it's all people who come from that particular environment. So when we talk about Republican Christianity in America, that's what it is. It's this whole cult miasma brought together. None of it was Christian in the first place. It didn't come from Christian preachers. It didn't come from Christian teaching. It came from this one weird motherfucker who decided he was going to rewrite the Bible. For the most part, using existing heresies and weird shit that nobody took seriously. Now, 30 or 40 years of Republican amplification and cultural ingrainment, and now we're in a world where everybody thinks that's what the Christian religion is, including a lot of people who follow it. So that is our historical background. I have fallen victim to my pastoral sensibilities and ranted for far too long. Thus, the lesson, what do y'all think?
You know me, I love to tear apart some like harmful shit masquerading as Christianity anytime. That's my jam.
Yeah.
I'm just a fan of skin suits, so yeah, I'm into this conversation.
Well, you've come to the right place. So, like, there are a lot of things that are kind of prevalent to Scofieldism, which is a heresy. It's not part of the Christian church, that a lot of us have kind of come to believe as fundamental to Christian teaching. I'm going to just throw a few of them out here, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about these things, one being heresies, and two, as things you have experience with. And the big one I'm going to start with is biblical literalism.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It's my understanding that it's kind of like constitutional originalist, in that it's a very specific thing claiming the totality of original intent while not necessarily actually doing so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the thing is I'm going to actually look this up because I want to make sure I've got the right thing. Yeah, I think it was in First Principles, but Origin of Alexandria from the 3rd century, if not a little bit, not a hair earlier, went on record. He's one of the earliest known Christian scholars. And he's specifically quoted as saying, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't have it to hand, those who interpret scripture according to its mere letter and not by the spirit behind it are misinterpreting the Bible. So this is like the idea of literalism has existed for forever, but has always been seen as heretical. And there are Jewish scholars going back before Christianity who've been very clear in the fact that like this isn't meant to be literalism. Like there are myths and ethos and stories here that are meant to teach broader lessons, but a specific history textbook, a specific prediction of the future, this is not. It's not meant to be that. And that, of course, leads me to my second thing, which I want to knock you guys around. And I'm going to ask this one in the form of a question. What is a prophecy? What do you think?
Oh, I was privately pressing you about this recently, but go ahead. Okay.
Okay, what do you think? What is a prophecy?
I mean, I would assume in the same sense as like fiction and shit, like just a prediction for the future. That's all I got.
That was what I was effectively raised to believe too.
Yeah.
You get the church.
Anakin Skywalker will bring balance to the Force, kind of shit.
Yes, in accordance with the prophecy.
Yeah, it's like there's a special boy who's going to make things good.
Special boy who is the child of the prophets, and his name shall be Benjamin Sisko. Anyway, no,
or Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, what have you. The main character in a hero's journey.
Whichever.
You'll know them because you'll know them because they pick the same toy as the last Avatar.
Oh yeah.
Deep cuts.
Wait, are we in Buddhism or Hinduism? I think we've lost track. Anyway, fun fact: prophecy is not that. Like, there is, within mainline Christianity, there isn't really a tradition of predicting the future. Clairvoyance doesn't play a part in Christian theology, because what prophecy is, and this dates back to the Hebrew tradition, prophecy is almost interchangeable from preaching, not prediction, preaching. And in fact, the office of prophet in the Old Testament days, we're talking guys like Isaiah, Ezekiel, all those dudes, they had the office of prophet, which wasn't like some mystical kind of like rolling the bones oracle who was there to predict the future. The role of the prophet was to be a representative of God who tells kings when they've fucked up.
Yeah, like just calling shit out from my understanding, right? Like, and then generally getting their heads cut off for it, something like that.
I mean, not always. Like the role, like it was acknowledged that this was the role of prophet, was to keep kings in check, and they rarely ever succeeded. I mean, like, and yeah, sometimes they did get executed for their problems. Although, in fairness, you got prophets like Isaiah who kind of outlived the kingdom. But you know, that was what the role is. And so as we move forward in time, that's what this role, people who attempt to do prophecy are attempting to function within this tradition. So when we flash all the way forward to St. John of Patmos, who's writing the book of Revelation, which forms the core of everything we're going to talk about, he wasn't writing this shit because he was predicting a specific future. He was writing it because the Christians were being persecuted from his perspective, and he wanted to tell the Roman government what the fuck was going to happen to them in the most poetic way possible. So first and foremost, like the role of prophecy from, you know, way back and like Micah and company all the way up to St. John of Patmos, the role of this is to tell the oppressor to fuck right off, and to do it with narratives and poetics and to make it fun while you're doing it. It was all metaphorical. It was all meant to be an indictment of that. So the book of Revelation, and fun plug for the Bible study we're going to be starting in March, you know, that's what the whole book's about. It's criticism of the Roman Empire and their policies of persecution towards Christians and other outlying groups. That's pretty much the heart of it. So
it's not just that the end of the Bible has a sequel hook.
No, it's not that there's a sequel. Like,
is there going to be a sequel though? Because like,
you know,
it just kind of leave.
I want to say Jesus 2 Electric Boogaloo, and the word Boogaloo is the room.
This time
Jesus
it's
harder.
personal.
Jesus 2, Christ hard with a vengeance.
Yeah.
No, like
Too Christ, too furious.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Who's braiding the whip of
Back
cord?
in the habit.
Return of the King.
No,
Return of the King. There we go.
that's perfect. We've done it. We've done it. Like, Christian theology does hold on the concept of Jesus coming back in the end, but what that looks like is something we've never really talked about. We weren't really given much information on. I stress this a lot, that Jesus only ever really said one thing about like life after death and things like that. There's only ever one time where he gave specific information about that, and that's the whole in my Father's house there are many rooms, I'm going there to prepare a place for you. That whole bit was the only time Jesus really spoke to it. And Jesus' whole life after death thing was that. So the Christian perspective on life after death and what's coming after all that after, the Christian perspective is, I know a guy. Like, that's it. That's Christian theology on death right there. So all of this stuff we're going to be looking into from the next episode on is made up. I'll be very
sorry, no, it's my job to pipe up, I guess.
yes. Well,
How does all of that reflect with like the Nicene Creed? Is that are you going to assert that that's not like a proper Christian creed, or
no? I'm not going
he'll come again to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end?
Can I ask what the Nicene Creed is? I'm assuming that has to do with like the Council of Nicaea, or
I grew up in the
whatever.
church. Yeah, it does. I think I grew up in the church, and so I said this weekly for like over a decade of my life.
Short answer is we have a bunch of creeds in the church, which are basically statements of faith. We believe X. I'm a big fan of the Belhar Confession. If you don't know that, it's basically "fuck you, racists." The confession comes out of apartheid South Africa. Absolutely love it. Anyway,
Sounds great.
They start way back in history with the Apostles' Creed, which is generally considered the first blanket statement of faith. The Council of Nicaea reformed it, and that's where we get the Nicene Creed, which, if you don't know it as name, you probably heard it. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible, and in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only Son of God, yada, yada. It goes on for pages and pages and pages. It's a statement of faith. And there is like the end part about that. He will come again with glory to judge the living and the dead. His kingdom will never end. Like Christians do believe in a second coming. Like, I'm going to shit on a lot of second coming stuff here. I'm not going to lie.
Somebody get a towel.
Again, do we know when so we can prepare the towels?
Well, that's exactly it. Like, we know it's a thing. We know it's a thing that was promised. We also know it's none of our business. It'll happen when it happens. Get off my back.
Something thief in the night.
Jesus coming is not our business.
Like, guaranteed not to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there are specific lines that say you're not going to know when it's going to happen, so don't bother with it. Like, it's we have faith that it's a thing that will happen, that eventually all of this fuckupery will draw to a close and that God will do a better thing. Like, yeah, okay, that's an article of faith. I'm good with that. I don't know when. I don't care when. And personally, as a Christian, I generally believe that if I look up in the night sky and see an infinite number of planets and we're only here on the one, pretty sure God didn't create all of that just to make it look pretty. So, like, there's a lot more.
I'm going to come again. It will happen sometime. Stop asking when I'm going to come again. I'm almost there, maybe, but I'm just leave it alone. Is what
You're putting too much pressure on me, and not getting anxious, and I'm not able to.
No, he'll reach a hand down through the clouds and tap us on the head when he's close. Okay.
Our cat looks so angry.
Yes, just because you're a pastor doesn't mean you can't make those kind of jokes. Anyway, that's the gist of it. So we are dealing with some crazy fucking heresy here. And so this whole fiction is kind of built on that. So I've given kind of the background here and ranted far too much for any one episode. Do you guys want to poke holes in this stuff? Do you want to ask any questions? Throw me some feedback or just beat me over the head with something?
Nah, man, we're going long, and I'm ready to just like start tearing into the text.
Yeah.
All right, we all good? All right, thus endeth the history lesson. Are you good, dragon fruit dragon thing? Dragon fin?
Yes.
All right. Awesome.
Very serious program.
Yes, we are totally
Fantastic.
theologians, I promise. So that being the end of this episode, thank you very much if you followed so far. Starting from our next episode, we are going to be actually digging into the text itself and talking about its various literary merits and whatnot. So
Rayford Steele and his fully loaded 747.
yeah.
Oh my god.
It's gonna be a thing we'll talk about.
Literal.
That was
I think that was literally how it was worded.
The first sentence.
Yep, that's not veiled innuendo or anything. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the next episode. If you watch this far, thanks for sticking around. Links to everything are going to be down below, but check us out on Discord. We're doing a bunch of stuff there. We're talking about this stuff. We've got a follow-up channel that should be functioning at that point where we're talking about this stuff and we're feeding it. We're doing a Bible study on Revelation that's either, depending on when this releases, soon to come out or recently started. look up on our website, join us in that, talk about this shit some more. Like, that's what we are here for, to talk and to learn and to grow together and to generally be annoyed at evangelicals. That's kind of what we do. If you have any questions, you can contact me again through the website below. I'm a pastor. I do respond to emails and shit, not like most of your podcast hosts with whom you have parasocial relationships. I actually do respond. Aha. But I can't speak for anyone else. So if you have questions, talk to us in the comments. I am going to, let's see, should I kick it to Courtney for the like, share, and no, we do that already. Please like and subscribe, do all of that fun stuff. So in the meantime, we will see you in our next episode. Yeah, we'll see you in our next episode. Have a good time, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.